UP Local 79 still on strike, picketing this morning at Nathan Phillips Square in the rain. 7:15, highs of 10.7 right now. Rain all day. It's Tuesday, April the 4th. Del Murchison, I've never heard of the word numismatic. Can you tell me exactly what that is? After all, you represent the Ontario Numismatic Association.
Well, that refers to the science of collecting coins, medals, and monetary objects.
Interesting. So we're looking at legal tender at items that could have been used as money in years past. How did we end up with what we use in North America, or really around the world in most cases, the coins and paper that we see today?
Well, that evolved out of the Greek system approximately 600 BC, where the value of gold and silver was used to buy things, and somebody came up with the great idea of stamping it and guaranteeing its value.
So had this not been the way of the world, perhaps gold and silver wouldn't be as valuable as it is today. We sort of make it valuable because of the demand.
Well, because we believe it's valuable.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's very true, isn't it? Let's look at some of the items that you brought in, and we're going geographically rather than chronologically, aren't we?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I guess we don't want to take this out of the plastic, do we? Because it may...
yes, you can take it out.
Would you mind? Yeah.
Sure.
It's a little shiny to look at, so we might
take it out,
right
look at it.
Tell me when this is from and where.
This is pre-revolutionary Russia.
Wow.
And when the Russian nobility left Russia, they put all this money in suitcases because they wanted to carry their wealth with them. And when the communists took over, they simply repudiated the notes.
Really?
And so these very large notes, and if you want to hold it up, you can see in this section here what's called a watermark. It's a representation of that vignette.
Now I can see through this, and I can see
a design of that vignette. Yeah, Peter the Great.
I don't know whether you can actually see that, but now we can because the light's going through it.
Sorry, it's caused by the thickness and thinness of paper at that point.
Yeah. Don't know. No, we can't see it to the naked eye, but I believe you. What would this be worth today? Oh. Not as money, but because of its value.
About $5.
Okay. So not as an antique or as a collectible, just $5.
$5 as a collectible, yes.
Okay, that's not that difficult to put our hands on.
No.
Now, this looks a bit like a fossil.
Well, it's actually a piece of plate money. Sweden had no natural resources of silver, but it had a lot of copper. So when the world economy was expanding with the Renaissance times, they needed to produce larger denominations of money, so they simply produced them larger and in copper. And some pieces weighed up to 45 pounds and were about this big.
Can you imagine if you were a rich person? You'd be a very tired person trying to carry your money around.
You need a wheelbarrow just to go shopping. Sure.
But at least you'd be able to show your wealth, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about parading your money around. What have we got here?
Well, these are Roman coins. That's one of Nero, and this is one of Gordian. And this is a piece of 8, Spanish pirate money from the New World.
These have been found. Now, you'd like to think that this was found in a chest at the bottom of the sea.
Yes, exactly where it was found.
Really was.
And this one, too. That was off the wreck of the Hull India, and this was off the wreck of the Nicobar.
And where would this have been found? Buried under the ground near
Buried
the roads
in Rome,
that they were probably building at that point?
Yeah, probably in Rome someplace.
Now, huge, and this looks like it's made of clay, actually.
Porcelain from the Meissen plant.
Porcelain.
Post-First World War, Germany was a time of rampant inflation, where the mark went from 30 cents American to 1 billion marks for 1 cent.
Gee.
And you talk about our inflation.
Yeah. Nothing compared to that.
And that caused the silver and gold, which had actual monetary value because it was a valuable metal, to be driven out of circulation. Nobody wanted to spend a silver or gold coin that was worth billions and billions of marks for just a few pennies. So the various municipal governments came up with the idea of creating their own money out of clay, which was virtually worthless. And then they could also sell it to silly coin collectors like myself.
And how much did you pay for that?
That's about $75.
Okay. Well, maybe you got taken a little bit.
I bought it in this building.
Oh, you did? Tell me how that came about.
Charlton's, one of the premier Canadian coin dealers, used to reside in this building.
And what decade are we talking about?
About 20 years ago, I think.
Okay, interesting. Just before we moved in. Now, seashells by the seashore, but it could also buy you a good time if you needed it.
Sure. Shells are probably the commonest form of money throughout the world. Wampum, North American native money, was made from shells.
And in some resorts today, they still use that. All-inclusive, they say, here are your shells, use this to buy your
Little
drink.
beads, too, right?
Yeah. And this looks like it could be strung onto a necklace, so you've got stones.
Well, it probably does represent a bead, but this is from an African nation, a tribal group that created the money out of stones, drilled them out of a white quartz, then rubbed them over with red clay.
Now, how would they determine that this was something valuable and not just some, rocks on the road?
Because of the workmanship that went into making
The
it.
polishing and whatnot.
And the trouble that they went through to put it together.
Either a nose ring for an ox or a bracelet for...
It's a bracelet.
For some of us.
It's a bracelet. It's called a manila. It was used in the slave trade in Africa, West Africa.
So who would use it? Obviously not the slaves.
Well, sure. No, the people who sold the slaves and the buyers of it. What had happened originally is, and a lot of Africans would use it, because they valued it as money, then it became a trade good. You could trade with it. And what had happened was the natives would collect the nails off of shipwrecks and make bracelets out of them. So a factory in Birmingham decided to manufacture them with steam presses and modern equipment to use in Africa.
Wow, fascinating. I had no idea that this could tell you, again, so much about history. I would like to move right along to this coin sword. This is from an Asian country, I'm assuming.
China.
China, mm-hmm.
And it would have been put together and given as a gift to a bridal couple, to a pension to a soldier, and they would hang it over a window or a door and hopefully never spend it.
I bet. But just like our RRSPs, we need to collapse them sometimes, and we need the money. Would you unstring this and spend it if you really were desperate?
I won't, but somebody could have.
What would this be valued at today? And again, just because it's such an interesting collector's item.
They vary. A very old one would go for about $75 to $150. That one about $25 because it's fairly modern.
Interesting stuff. I thank you so much. The 38th, hard to believe, annual gathering at the Triumph Howard Johnson Plaza Hotel, and that the Numismatic Association is hosting this. So all the numismatics around the world will be gathering about mid-April. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
It is 7:22. Time for a break. We'll be back.
Thank you.
What's the most unusual thing that you've ever seen used as money?
Good morning. I'm Gord Martin.